Cullen.
Do-right recap. I woke to a world that didn't make sense. No signs of our battle, but our gear was strewn about as if we'd been ransacked. Sheriel tried to explain it as teleportation, but the truth felt heavier. The mountains were familiar, yet the air, the timing, all wrong. I found a set of armor, leather reinforced with bands of metal, our family symbol pressed over the heart. It felt deliberate, as though someone wanted me here. Someone planned this dot. And then came the razor, not a myth, not a symbol. I held it for the first time, and as I took its measure, it took mine. Whatever comes next, I am certain it is purpose. Something I've longed for my entire life. I know now I'm part of something I don't yet understand.
Hi, I'm Mike Carmel, and this is the Dark Razor Chronicles, Season 2, Episode 5, The Fourth Branch. Last time, Cullen stepped into the clearing with the Dark Razor at his side, where he performed the Tree of Life, a sequence of armed and unarmed combat forms, while Sharel Maldine watched his every move. This episode takes us deeper into the forms, and into truths that cannot be hidden once the Razor is set in motion. Now, let's return to the edge of the blade.
Sharel Maldine.
Sigh.
His roar shatters the clearing, and I jump. The sound is mighty and primal, designed to intimidate, to unsettle, to break the will of cowards before the first strike is thrown. I shiver with anticipation. I am to see the Tree of Life once more. This is not the same dance I saw before. His stance lowers, arms sweeping forward to block an unseen opponent's attack. His back leg slides farther, momentum shifting. His hand strikes in a downward blow, forearm shattered. A palm thrusts upward, eyes imploding. A chop to the throat, cartilage crushed. He lunges. Foot strikes designed to snag clothes and flesh, dragging his opponent downward. A knee colliding with ribs, breaking bone. I feel my own breath catch. This is not a display of skill. This is combat. His clothes snap with each motion, boots digging deep, calculated and deliberate. And then, he flips. The world turns upside down as he pins himself on his hands, legs spinning in a deadly arc, a pinwheel of destruction. His torso twists as his feet return to the ground, and then, the razor comes free. A sharp thrum vibrates through the air, and I realize the fourth branch has only just begun. The razor moves differently now. It does not keep foes at bay. It does not concern itself with efficiency. The fourth is something else entirely. A last stand, a desperate slaughter. It exists for only one purpose, and I shiver as I watch him embrace it. The razor twists, jabs, spins in a whirlwind of death. Sometimes he holds only the handbrake, using the blade like a quarterstaff, spinning it in a dizzying cyclone. No hesitation, no mercy. When he first performed the Tree of Life, he only showed me the first 3 branches. I remembered the romance, stories from my youth, the chivalry I longed to see, the drive that once gave me the courage to make such foolish choices. I feel no exultation this time, no beauty in his movement. This is not a dance. It is desperation. It is butchery. Men fall around him. The able, cut down. The wounded, finished. This is not what I wanted to see. I had once thought combat romantic, that there was honor in battle, but now I can watch no more. My stomach churns. I turn away, and his display goes on. The thump of boots on turf echoes through my legs, dull reverberations climbing my spine. Cullen's yells of exertion tear through the clearing, forcing my mind to conjure the battle he fights, every cut, every stab, Memories flood in, drowning me in a war I am not fighting. I have never felt like this before, so emotional, so overwhelmed. Being here, in the flesh, brings the reality to me in a flood I am not ready for. An aspect of this body I had never considered. Then silence. I turn toward him. He stands where he began, breath ragged, sweat dripping down his face. Anger lingers in his eyes, a storm that hasn't passed. Should I apologize? No. He obeyed. The hierarchy has been established. But does he resent me now? A precarious balance. I understand, I say, forcing a neutral tone. The fourth lacks the humanity of the other branches. There is no honor in it, only survival against the impossible. His head doesn't turn, but his eyes shift, watching me from the corners. The anger dims, thoughts turning inward. Good. I haven't caused too much damage. I exhale quietly, releasing a breath I hadn't realized I was holding. I give him space, busying myself with packing the gear. Still, he does not move. The golden light of the setting sun washes over him, stretching long shadows across the clearing. Well, I won't try to comfort him again, that's for sure, but I want to. Several minutes pass. He remains motionless, still staring over the trees and mountains. With the decision to stay the night, I decide to gather firewood. It's something to do. There's one thing I remember about the road. It's that firewood is a never-ending chore. I drift into the woods, collecting whatever I can carry, practicing stealth as I move. By the time I return, my arms are full, but Cullen still hasn't moved. I glance at my pile of wood. Surely it's enough for the entire night. But then, how do I start it? I frown, trying to recall the process. Crouching, I begin stacking the smallest pieces into a rough pile. A shadow shifts beside me. I jump, letting out a startled exclamation as Cullen sweeps his foot through my pile. My stomach clenches, fear flickering at the edge of my thoughts.
You need to clear the grass down to the soil or rock first. We don't want a fire getting away from us.
Using his heel, he stomps at the ground, then scoops away the grass, peeling back layers of roots and earth until a blackened circle remains. Satisfied, he stands and moves into the woods. I watch him disappear into the shadows. For a long moment, I debate calling out. But before I can, he returns, hands full of twigs, twisting them between his fingers. He sinks into a crouch, and I see dried moss jammed between the twigs. Old man's beard, I recall vaguely. He twists the bundle, placing it in the center of the dirt. He begins to build. I watch, silent, as he arranges the sticks, breaking them, standing them just so, forming a carefully structured stack above the mossy tinder. A flash of embarrassment rises, heat in my face. My attempt had been little more than a pile. His is deliberate, precise.
We need flint. There was one in the laboratory. A leather pouch. It should be here.
I nod quickly, already scanning the ground. But before I can begin searching, Cullen moves, grabbing the smaller pack. It jingles with buckles as he rummages through it. Then he pulls out a pouch, unties the thongs, and draws out the flint and steel. He abandons the pack, letting it roll onto its back in the grass. The steel is shaped to fit over 3 fingers, like a small knuckle guard. He wears it on his left hand. He strikes the flint. Once, sparks scatter. Twice, wisps of smoke rise. Thrice, the old man's beard catches. At first it fails, the embers fading, but Cullen leans in, breath carefully coaxing the fire to life. A few moments later, flames flicker against the wood. The fire is born.
You must be hungry. That jerk was some time ago.
Yes. Cullen reaches into the backpack, pulling free the cloth bag of jerked meat. He opens it, offering it to me. I take 2 long twists, holding them up. It's all we have, I say, hoping to rekindle the humor we shared in the laboratory. He doesn't smile. Without expression, he takes 2 pieces, closes the bag, and puts it away. Biting off a piece, he drops onto the pack, sitting hard, arms resting on his knees, fingers clasped together, the jerk protruding from his fists. He looks at me, and my stomach clenches. Something is coming.
All right, we have a fire and food. Now I want answers.
Nothing but crumbs. Part 4. The Squat. A recount by Krista Smithy. All right, keep your knickers on. Where was I? Yeah, right. So, there we was, squatting in Rufferman's fine little house like it were our own palace. Bread in our bellies, a roof over our heads, and me on watch with nothing but a sharpened ladle for company. We'd been in there 2 nights by then, starting to think maybe the bastard weren't coming back. Course, that's the problem with thinking you're safe, eh? Makes you forget you're sitting in someone else's den. It were warm. Quiet. Too quiet. I'm sitting with my back to the kitchen door, ladle in hand, the sharp edge resting across my knee. Lamplight flickers on the walls, shadows twitch every time the flame bends. Dan and Maury are by the stove. Not lit, but still warmer than the bins. Maury's got Ashy the coal goat stuffed under his shirt like a hot water bottle. His big shoulders hunch over Dan like he could block the cold just by sitting there. Dan's eyes are shut, but his breath's too careful for sleep. Gin's in the corner, arms crossed, boots still on. Sleeps like someone who knows. If you've got to run, you don't waste time lacing. When the lamplight burns low, I start my round. Not much to guard, just got to make sure the ways in are all watched. The kitchen, pantry and the short hall to the side room. But it feels bigger when you're walking it alone. We've been in the upstairs enough to know there ain't no one up there, but the creaks come regular like. Someone's taking slow steps about. The cot's still busted, stove's still cold, ledgers Dan found are stacked neat on the chair, and there's a smell now. Sharp, like coins after they've been in a sweaty hand. It wasn't here yesterday. I stand there sniffing at the dark. The quiet's thick, like it's waiting for something. Halfway through the night, I swap with Gin. He don't say a word, just sits up, takes my spot, and keeps his eyes on the same door I've been staring at for hours. I curl up beside Dan. His cough's quiet tonight, but his shoulders are tight under my arm. I tuck the tarp over him anyway. Sometime before dawn, I'm stirred awake by a sound I know too well. Clomp, clomp, clomp. Low hum. Off key. Rolling closer. Through the kitchen window, a smear of lantern light slides across the wall. Trundle. He stops just outside the back door. Doesn't try the latch this time, just taps it twice with his baton. Tap, tap, like he's saying, I know you're in there. I hold my breath. Gin's awake, eyes glittering in the low light. He lets out a quiet titter that makes my skin crawl more than the tapping. The boots start again, fading slow down the lane. I let my shoulders drop, but my gut's still tight. He knows. I don't care what Gin says. Trundle knows. Morning comes without trouble. We eat slow. Slice of bread each, a pickle, a bit of dried apple. Maury crunches like a goat. Gin chews loud on purpose like he's trying to outbest Maury, smirking like it's the best thing he's ever eaten. Munch, munch, munch on his bits of pickle. We continue picking through the rest of the place. In the study, Dan finds a drawer of picture cards meant for the post. Half written, never sent. Places I've never heard of. The last one signed with a name that don't match Rutherman. In the bedroom, Maury crouches and hauls out a sock with a marble in it, calls it kitten's egg, and strings it on a nail over the spot he sleeps like a charm. In the pantry, I notice the flour sack we left tied is untied now, loose at the top. No one seems to remember going into it. By the 4th day, the place starts to feel ours. Dan's lined the ledgers under the cop so it don't sag so much. Maury's egg charm swings when you walk past it. Gin shaved a wedge of cooking lard to spread on his crackers. Says it makes them less like gravel, but the quiet's still wrong. Sometimes I catch Jin staring at the front door, like he's waiting for it to open. Sometimes I swear I hear a creak from upstairs, and when I look, Jin just says, "How shifting." End of the week, I'm on watch again. Cold air seeps under the back door, smells like rain and chimney soot. That's when I hear it, soft, from outside. Not the wind, not an animal, a boot on stone, slow. It stops right outside the door. The shadow underneath shifts, just slightly. And that, my lovelies, is where I start remembering we weren't the only ones calling that place home. Now, buy me a pint and I'll tell you what happened when we opened that feckin' door.
Shur al-Maldin. Sitting on the soft grass, the blades tickle my skin through the thin fabric of my clothes. I lean against my pack, his words churning in my stomach. Cullen sits across from me, the fire crackling between us, the scent of smoke and burning wood thick in the air. My choice of perch feels like a mistake. It's as if he's on a dais, looking down on me like a judge, his brow furrowed, his jaw clenched.
You've placed a lot upon my shoulders.
The words grate at me. I have placed a lot on him, but he is oath taken. It's his duty. I say as much, but his reply cuts just as deep, his eyes narrowing.
You keep saying that.
He snaps, fingers digging into his knees, fabric bunching beneath his grip.
But it doesn't explain anything. You should know enough of me to understand that a lack of purpose will only drive me mad. I've waited my whole life for answers, and I think I'm due.
He's right, of course. The realization douses the small flicker of anger I'd felt. I should have understood. Still, I'm not ready to tell him everything. Not yet. I shift my gaze to the flames, watching them dance and twist. You are due, I admit. But so am I. There's more to the story than you know. You need to have patience. He looks away, his profile outlined by the flickering firelight, the hard line of his jaw set against the dark. I could give him what he wants. Answers. Truth. But we've come too far in establishing this hierarchy. I can't let him dictate the course. My mind races with the day's events. I'm supposed to be the commander, the one in charge. But every time I look at Cullen, my resolve falters. He's nothing like I expected. More than just a soldier following orders. There's a depth to him I didn't anticipate. A sense of honor, of integrity, that shines through even beneath his doubts and fears. I find myself wanting to confide in him, to share this burden, but I can't. Not yet. I'm torn. Between my duty as a commander and my growing respect for him. How can I keep up this facade of authority when all I want is to treat him as an equal, as a partner in this journey? I take a deep breath, steadying my emotions. I can't let this cloud my judgment. I have a responsibility to see this mission through, no matter the cost. But as I glance at Cullen's tense form across the fire, I can't help but wonder if that cost will be higher than I ever imagined. I need to know more about him, the man bound to me, my protector, my champion. So I spurn his request and pose a question of my own. Tell me, why are you so angry with the fourth branch? I see what a tool it is, but a tool is only as wicked as the man who wields it. He lets out a breath, sharp and loud, leaning forward, elbows on his knees.
Fine. When I was a child, Great-Grandad was my best friend. We did everything together, fishing, hunting, everything. At first I was too young to train with the men, so that responsibility fell to my mom.
I let out a small, involuntary laugh. His brow furrows, eyes narrowing in confusion, thinking I mock him. I never knew my grandfather, I say softly, and my training also fell to my mother. Perhaps we have more in common than it first seemed, I say. A small smile tugs at my lips, but Cullen hesitates, his mouth pressing into a thin line. Maybe he's irritated, or maybe he's intrigued by the glimpse I've given. His breath hisses through his nose as he focuses on the fire, shadows dancing across his face. I say nothing, letting the silence stretch between us. hoping it'll prompt him to continue. It becomes a waiting game. Who will speak first? Finally, he breaks.
When I reached my age of choice, my 6th year, I had to decide whether to follow the path of my family or forge my own. I made that choice in front of Da, Granda, and Great-Granda, with my mom at my side. I chose to train in earnest.
Eyes distant, lost in memory.
Great-Granda was already showing signs of sickness then, but we were still close. Thankfully, he made it to my 12th year, the day I swore the oath. He knew I would follow in his footsteps. That meant everything to him. And at the time, it meant everything to me.
His throat tightens, voice cracking.
He died unexpectedly. My parents told me as I returned from town. I was devastated, so I turned to Granda. We were close, them ever like I'd been with his dad. I thought he could fill the void.
Cullen's breath catches, his chest still, his hands trembling. I watch him, my heart aching in sympathy. I know this pain. Family wounds run deep.
It was never said outright, but there was always bitterness, sarcasm. I think Granda resented Great-Granda's passing. Life didn't turn out the way he'd hoped, and he was sick too, though I didn't know it then.
He swallows hard, the crackle of the fire filling the space between his words.
Granda became a merciless teacher. Took over most of my training. He was hard on me, harder on his opponents during festivals. No one wanted to face him in competition. In his last season, his final competition, he'd grown so angry when no one would challenge him that the officials asked him to step down, to concede his standing and never return. 3 men had been wounded.
Because of the 4th, I ask, my voice soft. He nods, his face hollow.
All of it was about the 4th. It's an almost impossible thing to beat. The 4th is for someone who thinks they have nothing left to lose, and that's exactly how Granda felt, a man with nothing left to live for. So he gave himself purpose and forced me to learn the 4th, using himself as the example. That he was invincible, that no one could beat him. He taught me that nothing else was more important, that I'd need it when the storms came, if the storms came.
Cullen's eyes lock on mine, intense and burning.
He was referring to you, of course.
That's it for the Dark Razor Chronicles Streamcast, Episode 5 of Season 2, The Fourth Branch. I'm Mike Carmel, and I hope you're enjoying this journey as much as I am bringing it to life. We're diving deeper into Cullen's past, Sherelle's perspective, and the truths neither of them can quite say aloud. If you'd like to help keep the story going, Patreon is the best way to keep the blade sharp. Please share the podcast, leave a review, and let others know the Razor's Edge is worth walking. And remember, if the shadows close in, stand your ground. If the 4th calls your hand, wield it with purpose. Until next time, stay sharp.